Tales of the TMNT Season 5, Episodes 15, 16, and 17, Wanted, Bebop and Rocksteady. Now, this episode, I would say, or these 3 episodes, I would definitely say were good episodes. Unfortunately, these are the official final 3 episodes of, Tales of the TMNT, or just, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2012 version, which is really sad. And before I get into the review, I want to do my little explanation for people that randomly come across this, because for whatever reason, every time I do one of these reviews, they'll get to like the thousands months after I've uploaded them. So for anyone who might randomly come across this, if you haven't checked out my other TMNT reviews, the reason that I titled this episode with numbers instead of calling it the series finale is because, technically speaking, the Mutant Apocalypse stuff with Raphael going through, like, the Mad Max TMNT stuff they did, technically those are the series finale episodes. Those were the last 3 in the actual canonical storyline. So I titled them the series finale, even though Nickelodeon was really, really dumb. They just treated the show like crap, honestly. But they aired the series finale, and then we had, like 6 episodes afterwards. We had, or I guess it was more, it's probably 7, because I think the horror storyline was 3 or 4, but either 6 or 7 episodes after the series finale. But that's why these are, at least on my channel, I'm titling them as like numbered episodes rather than just calling this like my series finale review, even though it is technically the last 3 episodes of the series. But good episode. I hate that, like, there were so many things with this episode that, or as far as just the series in general and how everything's played out over the past like 2 months with what they did to Ninja Turtles, as far as taking it off of the main channel and putting it onto Nicktoons, airing the series finale before airing the Halloween stuff, and then these final episodes as well. And then, of course, you have this episode, which is like the last one that they were going to air ever. And it's been on sale. It was on DVD over a month ago, like a month and a half ago. It was like, buy, Bebop and Rocksteady. And it was like, oh, I thought it was just like, these are episodes that'll come out later. I didn't know they were going to be like the special crossover with the 80s characters, final 3 episodes. And they sold them like a month and a half early. It's like, what is the point of that? So, I mean, the point is to get money. And I know some people bought them, and I was like, well, I'll just wait to see them. Some of the episodes were leaked. Like, I know all the Halloween episodes were leaked way ahead of time. I don't even think those were on DVD, but they might have been. But like, all the episodes were already leaked. I didn't watch them because I was like, I just wanted to see them, on the actual channel, or at least online. I ended up just watching everything online because it was at least in HD. But yeah, like, the episode was really good, and it's the funniest thing. Like, I'm going into like the final 3 episodes, and I'm going into it, I was pretty excited. I was like, alright, I've been waiting. Once I found out this was like the big crossover thing, which I knew a while back because of the DVD stuff. I was like, oh, okay, the Wanted is the same as the crossover stuff. So I was like, I'm really looking forward to that. It focuses on Bebop and Rocksteady, and it's a crossover thing. That should be fun. It's definitely a great episode. And then going into this, somehow Nickelodeon screwed it up even more so, because on the website, and I don't know, I just don't know what the deal was. I don't know if it was some crazy mix-up with me just happening to go in at the worst time possible. But somehow, on their own website, they uploaded the episodes out of order. It's one long episode. It's like an hour. It's one just full hour-long episode. And somehow, it's out of order. Like, the final part is what I saw first. And I didn't realize that because technically, it starts with the beginning, and there's something wrong where it cuts, and then it jumps to the very end. And there was stuff, like, I didn't realize that it did that because the way that it cuts is so perfect. I didn't know that I watched, like, the first part, because I see the beginning of the actual storyline where it's like, okay, here's the 80s Shredder, 80s Kraang, and they take the Technodrome, they leave, and the old Bebop and Rocksteady are trying to get to the Technodrome, and it's like, oh man, we're stuck. After that, it cuts to, the modern day stuff, and the turtles are already together. And I was like, oh, I thought that was, personally, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. They kind of just threw it in. They were already together. And I was like, that's interesting, but they do already know each other. So I was like, I guess, I thought it was just moving super fast. And I was like, okay, that's not that crazy. It's not like horrible. It's not like this is the first time they met, so they skipped over a bunch. It's just like, oh, it's crazy. This is the second time they met, but they kind of just went right into it. Like, we got so many issues, and I just didn't realize it. And I saw like the ending of the episode, and I was like, they're going through like the big battle and stuff, and I was like, this doesn't seem right. And of course it ends with Bebop and Rocksteady turning on Shredder and Kraang. And I was like, I'm pretty sure something's off here, because, and of course it was, like, I was somehow, the way they put it up online was off. So if you happen to watch it online, I mean, if you're watching this, then, I mean, you've already seen the episode, obviously, so I'm reviewing it, it's spoilers. But yeah, that made me super mad because I was like, oh, they couldn't even bother to put the freaking episode up online in the correct order. Like somehow the first part is actually the first part of the episode, and then it skips over the second and the, pretty much most of the first episode, and then the whole second episode, and it just goes straight to the final piece where they're at the TCRI building, and that's where it kicked off for me. And it was like, okay, everybody's together. And I was wondering, I was like, man, what is going on? Like, where's Casey? Like April was there throughout the whole thing, and I was like, where's Casey? This is like, the end. Where's Karai and Shinigami and stuff? And I was like, what's happening? But it was like the first half, so I was like, okay, they're going into like a lot of crazy battles, and it's weird that they don't have like everybody involved already. And so, like I said, as it goes through, they're in the final battle and everything's kind of playing out, and it's just like, man, this is so weird. Then of course it gets to the end and I'm like, this was the actual end, and I'm watching it out of order. So of course I kept watching it because I was like, well, now I have to watch the other like 45 minutes from the beginning before all the insane action at the end of the episode, and then it cuts back to the turtles, the 80s turtles, before they actually end up getting to the 2012 dimension. So it was nuts, or I think it was. I really don't know, honestly, because I was like, Bebop and Rocksteady were still there, so I don't know if that was like their little after credit sequence or what. I honestly can't tell you because it was so out of order. I don't really know 100% from the beginning, but it was still fun going through. I was like, I still love this episode. The first part, like actually, now that I know the initial order of what I was supposed to see it as, I enjoyed it. It starts off, we have Shredder, we have Kraang, they go to the 2012 dimension. Bebop and Rocksteady are left behind, so they end up with the 2012 Bebop and Rocksteady. And they were pretty awesome. I thought they were really cool. Like they go in, they get a bit of an upgrade from the 80s Shredder and 80s Kraang. They get like these cool weapons. And of course they're better than the old 80s Turtles because the old 80s Turtles don't actually fight. And they did, my favorite had to be them at the playground. And it's when they like first interact with each other. And it was really simple for them. It was just like, okay, we're gonna go in and beat them up and stuff, and they got destroyed. Like they just got their butts kicked so hard. And I love the part where Raph was like, why don't you cool off, and he tries to like cut the fire hydrant. It was like, that's funny because that's what they do in the old stuff, but that's super unrealistic. Like you can have the sharpest blade ever, and unless it's got a lightsaber on the front of it, it's not gonna cut through a fire hydrant like that. And I thought that was the funniest thing, and I was like, yeah, that's super realistic. And he's just like trying to knock this thing off to knock Bebop down, and then Bebop just looks like he's just standing over him and just tosses the mohawk down and blows it up in his face. So that was really funny. Like they completely destroyed them and they wiped them out like crazy. And of course this is them in like their old school outfits and stuff. So it was cool. I actually liked Bebop in like the new version of Bebop wearing the old school outfit. I actually thought it looked really cool. I was like, I actually like that more than him in like just the black and purple sort of deal. I was like, that actually works for his character even more so than Rocksteady wearing like the old school Rocksteady stuff. Mostly because for him it didn't look like there's that much of a difference, which is weird. I was like, I can barely even think of what his costume ever actually looks like because I'm not looking at his shirt. I think he just had a t-shirt as well. It was like it was a t-shirt instead of a tank top, I believe. But I'm like, when they switched costumes, I was like, I don't even remember Rocksteady's 2012 outfit like at all. Bebop's is very, well, especially when he first showed up, Bebop was in like a full-on like Tron suit, and then it kind of changed when he got mutated. And then it went to like him just doing the vest and stuff. But I was like, for him, I could notice it, and I guess because it stuck out more because he was always in like black and purple, so him being in like the sort of muted red and then having the red shoes, it stood out a lot more than Rocksteady, where it was like, oh cool, he has the helmet on and like the bullets across and like the one grenade, which I never noticed that before, where it was like he just had a grenade always hanging off his chest. And I was like, that's cool, seeing them in their old outfits, or the new versions in the classic outfits. And they go through, they beat up the classic Turtles, and the 2012 Turtles along with, or actually no, it was before April and Casey kind of came in. They end up going and dealing with the old version of Shredder and Kraang while also dealing with the new version of Bebop and Rocksteady. They get kind of beat up, mostly because the old Turtles are always throwing out their catchphrases and yelling like turtle power and stuff. So that's how they get busted, and so they have to go through like this whole fight sequence. They get captured. They find out that pure energy is what kind of dilutes the weird crazy crystal thing, and so that's how they all escape and they go through their big fight and everybody's able to get out. But all of that was cool. I thought the action was actually really good. I felt like every fight scene, even if it was funny because it was like Bebop and Rocksteady just like destroying the 80s Turtles, even though it was really funny, it was still really cool. So like I loved all the different fight sequences and the characters and how they interacted with each other. I have to give huge props to Kevin Michael Richardson for doing the 80s Shredder, and he sounded just like James Avery. Like, I was like, he did a great job with that, because that was one of the biggest things where James Avery, who unfortunately passed away, I was like, who are they going to possibly get to do the 80s version of Shredder? Like, it has to sound like, you know, the 80s version of Shredder. And he did a great job with that, and I was super happy. I was like, okay, this sounds like, it almost like, when I first heard it, I was like, that almost sounds like they just used audio from the old cartoon. I was like, he did a great job doing his voice. And I was like, that was really cool. And I love that they were able to get someone who could properly do that voice, and kind of honor James Avery, who unfortunately can't do it because he passed away. So that was great. I love that. Like, he did a great job doing that. They had the actual voice actor who did the original Krang from the 80s cartoon. Of course, they brought back all the actors that did the original Turtles as well, just like they did with the Transdimensional Turtles episode. Was that last season? It was either last season or the one before. I think it was last season. So they brought everybody back that they could, and I was like, everybody did a really good job. In this, I would say that it was a bit better than what they did for, and this is an old reference, so sorry if you never watched like TMNT, like the 2003 series. I would say what they did with Shredder and Kraang in this, I loved a lot more than Turtles Forever. I love Turtles Forever. It's a great movie, but I hated the fact that they made Shredder and Kraang like wimps, because in this, they don't have two Shredders. It's just 80s Shredder and 80s Krang. And then if you watch, for those of you who didn't watch the old 2003 series, they had a special movie with Turtles Forever, which is basically what Transdimensional Turtles was. Like, I talk about all this in that review. It's like, that's exactly what Turtles Forever was, except they did it in 30 minutes instead of like an hour and a couple minutes for the TMNT version. But in that, they had the 80s Shredder and 80s Krang come in, but they still had the 2003 version of Shredder alive. So he was like insanely hardcore and badass. And then the old school Shredder and Kraang were like super wimps. And I was like, I hate that they did that. I was like, I know it's cheesy and campy, but they were like just pathetic in that movie. And I was like, that was the one thing that brought that down. So in this, I was happy to see that even though it was campy and it was like, Shredder was constantly doing like all his insults and stuff, and like they were doing that throughout like the whole thing, and he was always doing the insults, and I was like, yeah, it's super cheesy in 80s, but I was like, at least that fits. They aren't like bumbling idiots or anything like that. They do get beat up because the 2012 version of the characters is kind of like the 2003 thing, where they are still better than them as far as fighters. Like Bebop and Rocksteady beat up Shredder, which, you know, kind of makes sense because he goes invisible, and it's like, you know, he's talking about how he's the best ninja and all that stuff. And Bebop is invisible, and he's like picking him up, and he's punching him, and he can't get him. And then, you know, Rocksteady just comes in with the hit, and it's like, okay, you know, I'll let you guys go. And then my favorite had to be when Karai showed up, and he was like, you know, what are you gonna do? And she beat the F out of him. Like, she was just doing roundhouse kicks in his face, and I was like, that was hilarious. I love that whole sequence. And he just was like, he sicked the foot bots on her, but that was really funny. I love that, where he was just like, what are you gonna do? And she just beat the crap out of him. Like, he couldn't fight back, and it was just like, ooh, she hurt me, and he was just down for the count. So I love that. But even with them being beat up, and it was the same with the 80s Turtles, where they just couldn't, they weren't that good of fighters really, because they never really used their weapons. Even though they had that on both sides, I liked it a lot more than the Turtles Forever, where it was like, they just, that version of Shredder, like, honestly, just sucked, and he was like almost weak and pathetic, and I was like, oh, it's cheesy, not, you know, weak. So I was glad that he was definitely tough in this version, even if he wasn't like, you know, this version of Shredder tough. He was still tougher than, you know, that old movie. So I was really happy to see that, because I was like, I don't want him to just come in and all they do is crack jokes and be really stupid. He was the only Shredder, and he had to be good, and he was still a decent villain, even though he got beat up all the time. The plan was still the same, and it was like, you know, focusing on, you know, Bebop and Rocksteady is like the main driving force and stuff like that. But I was happy with that. Like I said, all the action I thought was good. We do get to see everybody come in. This is like pretty much all I wanted for all of Tales of TMNT. I was like, we know going into this season, it's the final season. Every episode, I was like, I think everyone should just be here, because it's the end. Unfortunately, Fugitoid does not make an appearance. I was like, at some point, either that's just going to be left up forever in the air, or they're going to put that into one of the episodes. Apparently, it's just left up forever. He's in space alive, and we never get to see a conclusion to that. Sadly, Mona Lisa does not show up in this, even though we do get the Mighty Mutanimals, we do get to see Slash, we get Leatherhead, and we get Mondo Gecko. I was glad we got to see Leatherhead. He's my favorite out of all of the characters, as far as the Mighty Mutanimals at least. He was always my favorite, so I was like, at least they got, you know, Leatherhead and Slash in there for like the big guys. Mondo Gecko doing like his silly little thing, trying to fight, and he gets beat up a lot like the Turtles do, where they try to pull off their cool moves, and Rocksteady's just like blocking them and just knocking them straight down and stuff, you know, stuff like that. So it was cool to see them. April and Casey are both in it. April was kind of all the way through when she eventually comes in and meets the other turtle. She's there throughout. Unfortunately, Casey is not because he gets his ribs broken, which was a pretty intense scene. Like during the once again a great fight sequence, and that wasn't even the ending. And Rocksteady charges him, and he has his ribs broken. I was like, okay, this is pretty intense, and that explains why he wasn't in like the final battle. What's not really explained is why Karai and Shinigami are not there, unless once again that's something that was totally skipped over because of how stupid Nickelodeon is for whoever uploaded it. Really screwed it up. I don't know why. I don't know how that happens, but however it played out, I may have missed some actual content. Who knows? I might actually have to watch it again just to get an answer to that. But I was so happy to see Karai and Shinigami show up. And technically they're in part 2. And so they bring in the Foot Ninja and stuff, and that's a great fight sequence with them. And just seeing Shinigami and Karai together was great because they were like not at all in this final season. Like they might as well not have, like Karai, like well Shinigami's not in it. But Karai might as well not even been in the opening for this season because she was in like this episode. I'm sure she was in this episode and she was in like the first 3 when this season kicked off. Shinigami and Karai were like deeply involved because it involved like Shredder coming back to life and all that stuff. But that was it. After that happened, they were like never seen. Even Casey was barely seen, and even he didn't get to show up in like those first 3 episodes. They kind of screwed Casey over in this, and I don't know if that was like a production thing where, you know, Josh Peck just couldn't do it. But I was like, man, they kind of screwed Casey over. Like, he just got no play in the beginning of this season, and hardly at all. So it was cool to see him in this, but he gets taken out. Shinigami and Karai bring in the Foot Ninja, and they're in like the red outfits and stuff, and that was super cool, fighting, you know, the new version of the Foot Ninja versus the old Foot Bots and stuff. So that was actually really cool. And then just like hitting them with the arrows and slicing them up and stuff, and that's when like the old 80s turtles get in on the action, and that's when we get the scene where Karai beats the crap out of Shredder. So all of that was really cool. And like I said, unless I did miss some content, which, I mean, considering how I ended up watching the episode, I would not be surprised if there's like 10 minutes worth of something that I just missed that explained why Shinigami and Karai were gone. But for whatever reason, they weren't there, they took off, and then that allows for, of course, the Mighty Mutanimals to come in when they get to the TCRI building. So that was really cool, getting to see them hang out with the Turtles and go into that final battle, and then just all the chaos that ensued there. And the Technodrome, you know, basically being, you know, boosted up to basically destroy the entire universe, which is what allowed for Bebop and Rocksteady to ultimately become the heroes by the end of the episode. So I loved how it all played out. Like I said, I loved the action, I loved the comedy. The characters were actually utilized fairly well. We got to see a bunch of the characters. They of course have the next generation thing going with the stuff in the villains, where it's like, and I love that. It's funny every time because the dude just always slaps his the guy beneath him, but it was like, you know, we came here to tell you that we're not the evil twins, you are. And the dude's like, it explains so much, which I thought was really a great line. He's like, what are we gonna do? And he's screaming, and of course he just gets slapped straight in the face. And the dude's like, you know, beam them out of there. And I love that part where the guy's looking at him, he's just like, and he just beams them out. And I was like, okay. And then I guess they get super mutated and they die. I thought that was a weird way to just end it, where they got mutated while they were being transported, I guess. But that I thought was definitely funny. They talk about how in the Turtles dimension, the cartoon is actually a live action show, and it's insanely gross when they like vaporize people all the time. So I thought that was a really funny moment. But overall, it was a good episode. I do wish that the side characters were in it more, especially with it being well, technically not the series finale, but either way, with it being a giant crossover, it would have been cool for them to be in it more, because like the whole season, a lot of these characters were missing. I think, if I remember right, this really is the only episode with any of the Mighty Mutanimals, not counting Mona Lisa, because technically they referenced the fact that she joined them, and I thought that was weird that she wouldn't show up, because that was kind of like the big thing. It was like, oh, she decided to stay on Earth, she'd be with the Mighty Mutanimals, and so, you know, like, why wasn't she there? Like, definitely you can switch out Mondo Gecko. I know that's the point of him, is like, he's useless, but he's funny, but put Mona Lisa in there, just make it a little tougher, and it's easy. It can be the exact same thing. So I would have loved to have seen Mona Lisa, but sadly we do not get that. Would have loved to have seen Karai and Shinigami way more. That's just like overall in the whole season. I wanted like Casey, April, Karai, and Shinigami to be in it so much more than they actually were. Because there were so many like giant adventures. Like everything they did this season was like one grand adventure. And I was like, I feel like they could have involved every character every single time and just kind of up the ante on the difficulty. And it just kind of works, where they just couldn't defeat certain characters. Supernatural beings like the Mummy and stuff, and you know, Wolfman, all that totally works even if you add more characters. I would have loved that, but definitely a good set of episodes. Ton of freaking references in this episode, by the way. Um, there is... Okay, so I think the first one was when the turtles, like when everybody's still bored and Leo goes and he fights in that store. He's wearing an outfit a lot like Raphael does in the very first Ninja Turtles movie where it's like the trench coat and the hat. I'm pretty sure that's what that was a reference to. I think even the line where he says like it's a school night was meant to reference something from the movie. Granted, that's in a ton of things, so I don't know where that originated from, but I think that was, at least the outfit was meant to be a reference to the first movie where Raph would always go out in the trench coat and the hat. The other references, where there's like 10 references at one time, is when Bebop and Rocksteady go to the Earth Protection Force building. When they break in and they're scanning for the little chip, there's like 8 million different things from all sorts of movies. Like they had Freddy Krueger's glove. They had there was a gun. I want to say it was the gun from the movie Equilibrium, which is an insane reference if that's what it was from. But it was some sort of like special looking handgun. I was like, it's either from that or it's from like the second Boondock Saints movie. It's like one of those two. They had the RoboCop face in there during the part where Bebop is actually scanning stuff. When he can look through the cubes, they actually go past like RoboCop's head. So it's like a bunch of movie memorabilia. They had like a Teddy Ruxpin doll in there. And there was a bunch of others I wish I could remember. There was like a bunch of things I was looking at, all the different silhouettes. I was like, these are all, pretty much everything was like a reference to a movie or something. I was like, that's really cool that they did that. Like all the movie stuff that we've ever seen in this universe of Ninja Turtles is technically real. RoboCop happened, Freddy Krueger happened, and all these other silly things. And some stuff was just real, like a Teddy Ruxpin doll was just like, yeah, that's just what it is. It's just a bear. But I thought that was really cool. I was like, that's cool. It's like half a second, but it's just like a bunch of different silhouettes of like all sorts of movie, little special movie items and stuff. So I like that little moment, and I might have to check that clip out on YouTube just to see what else is in it that I actually recognize. But love that scene, love the action, love the comedy. Wish I got to see it in its normal format, like a lot of people got to, but still a really good episode, even out of order. I still really enjoyed what I got to see. I will have to go back and check to see, because either they have a great reason for why Shinigami and Karai weren't in there during the last chunk of the episode, or it's just dumb and they just didn't put them in there, and it's like, well, that's just depressing. But either way, definitely a good set of episodes. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about them, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, with this being the final episode, the actual ending to everything that is this version of the Tales of the TMNT, or just TMNT in general. I would love to know what you guys thought about this final season. Who you wish we got to see during this final season. I know, like I said, the Future Toy thing, that storyline just won't be completed, and that's just how it is. Who would you guys like to have seen during this crossover? I would love to have seen Kirai and Shinigami in it a bit more, especially considering it's like a new version of Shredder. It would have just made perfect sense for at least Kirai to be in it like the whole way through. Even if it's not her Shredder, it's still just like this weird sense of closure for her. So I would have loved that. That's just how it is. I might still end up doing this video. I think I have to like do this to see what my time is, because my camera's going to cut off on me. But I might end up doing a video talking about how Nick has treated the end of TMNT. I talked about that before. I think I'm going to do that officially now, with just the upload on the website was crappy. But just want to know what you guys thought about this and what you thought about this final season in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.